Hi, I'm Stephen Andrews, author of 100 must-read science fiction novels, and this is the latest in the series of readings from the book. And today we're going to look at Lucius Shepard, Life During Wartime, and his other early works. Lucius Shepard, born 1947, USA. Life During Wartime, 1987, shown here in the original UK hardcover first edition from Grafton, published as a mainstream novel and then as a Paladin B format paperback a year later. I have very vivid memories of buying this late in, I think it was 87. Let's just check what it says. I know where I was working. I'm not sure if it was before or after Christmas. Let's just have a quick look at the rear of the full title page. And yeah, published 1988, so it was 1987 in the USA. What did I write about that back in 100 Must-Read Science Fiction Novels in 2006? David Mingola is one of thousands of US military advisors serving in insurgent Guatemala. Central America is the new Vietnam. The efficiency of stateside troops expanded by cutting-edge stimulants and the surgically altered Psychor, whose air cav division is perpetually disguised by smoky visors that are rumoured to hide their disfigurements. These flaky cowboy berserkers exert an uncomfortable fascination for Mignola, claiming to predict the future and annihilate the enemy by thought alone. After a traumatic raid by Cuban guerrillas on Mingola's base, the young artilleryman is trying to enjoy some R&R when one of his tense homeboys insists that their squad needs to desert to evade combat casualty before losing grip and being gunned down by military police. Mingola feels his own grip on the situation loosening when he encounters the sultry native Deborah while gambling in an unusual tombola game. Drawn to the haunted soldier by his natural ESP facility, she too states that unless Mingola avoids the future she foresees, he will die. But Mingola's experiences only encourage him to join Psychor and pursue an inexorable journey toward the end of the night. Let's take a look at the rear. Very plain and unadorned. It was really well reviewed at the time. I remember the bookshop I was working in was the largest bookshop in Bath at that point. We had 6 copies arrived, and the day it came in, I bought it straight away, and my line manager said this has just had amazing reviews. So there you go. I went on to write this. Obvious parallels with Apocalypse Now and Joseph Conrad are entirely appropriate. Life During Wartime stands up beside such masterworks because of the quality of the writing and the subtlety of the SF approach. Highly praised in broadsheet reviews when first published, it built on Shepard's reputation for existential exploration of the soul in exotic settings. His previous work had already been compared to that of the Latin American magical realists. I'm going to break off here to show you some of that previous work. Before Life During Wartime, he produced, I think, 2 books. The first one was Green Eyes, shown you in the original Grafton A format. Absolutely fantastic cover. It's about zombies. I wouldn't say it's a horror novel. And as it says in the front, aching to be filmed, the time said. Of course, it still hasn't been filmed, strangely enough. Absolutely fantastic book. A jungle book again. His first 3 books are all jungle books. His first 4 books are all jungle books, actually. So that's Green Eyes in its original A format. And it was preceded by this Chateau hardcover, now very uncommon. Little October hardcover. Chateau were flirting with the literary end of SF and fantasy then, and the scarcest book in this livery and this design would have been the original UK first edition of The Anubis Gates by Tim Powers, which sadly I don't own, which I have read. So that was Shepard's first novel. Going back to what I wrote, despite the neotropical jungle backdrop of the book and its voluptuous prose, the book is more akin to early Ballard or Celine than Marquez. Life During Wartime has similarities and differences, both in content and style, to Shepard's cyberpunk contemporaries that illustrate perfectly the fecundity of 1980s SF. And it's true, American SF in the 80s was just astonishing, particularly once you get to about 85, 86, there's some fantastic stuff going on. The novel takes its title from a Talking Heads song, and the book is a fearsome trip into a psychedelic heart of darkness, one that Shepard is most qualified to lead, and that fans of nightmarish combat horror films will eagerly follow. And, you know, it's still in print now. It's a Gonix masterwork. It seems little read these days. It's a shame. Shepard is dead now, unfortunately. He died very young. Very colourful background. Look into him. He's a very interesting man. He'd done all sorts of things. He claimed to have been the bouncer on the door of a cat house in Malaga, been in a rock band, owned a t-shirt company, all sorts of stuff. And he was a late starter in writing, and he had massive acclaim. And his early work, as I say, is pretty much focused on sort of jungle settings. So aside from Life During Wartime and Green Eyes, in the two editions I've shown you, his other early book from that period, which preceded Life During Wartime, Green Eyes was the first, was the Jaguar Hunter, which is the second book, presented here in 3 editions, as you'll see. Let me just make some space so you can see a bit more clearly the 3 editions, because I want to show you, because they do have their differences. At the bottom here is the Kerosena edition, which was a UK small press. That wasn't the world first, that was the UK first. This isn't an original slipcase. This is a slipcase I had mocked up, but the original slipcase for the signed edition was rather like that. This is an unsigned edition, and as you can see, it's very, very beautiful indeed. It has the iconic K symbol of Kerosena on the spine. If you don't know who Kerosena were, they were the finest small press in Britain in the 80s. They set the standard as far as I was concerned. And this is a trade edition, and absolutely lovely. Lots of stories in there, and that's the back of it. And this was the UK Paladin B format paperback, which followed a while later, which, as you see, had the same cover. However, somewhat earlier at the Worldcon in '87, I got this, the first edition of the Jaguar Hunter, which has different content to both UK editions. There's 3 stories which are different, so to get the whole lot you have to have both. And this was Arkham House, which of course was the press founded by August Derleth to preserve the legacy of H.P. Lovecraft. And you'll notice on the back there, there's Minghella, or at least one of the Psychor, reproduced there on the cover of Life During Wartime. And this edition illustrated by J.K. Potter. So there you go. You've got all 3 first editions there of the Jaguar Hunter, the first US, the first UK, and the first UK paperback. Green Eyes, his zombie novel. So if you're up for some jungle action, these are very much books to go for. They're hot, they're florid, they're literary, they're very strongly written. There's also a 4th book set in a jungle called Kalimantan, which is a novella set in Borneo. I do have a copy, but I cannot find it, so maybe I'll stick that in a little insert and put it on the video. If you haven't read Shepard, he's one of the great 80s writers. I put him up there with William Gibson, Lewis Shiner. If you've never read Lewis Shiner, you really should read Frontera. John Shirley's early work. I mean, these are sort of amazing sort of modern SF books. There's some fantasy stories as well, but this is really, really good, strong writing. The sort of writing that we don't see enough of now. The writing which almost conquered the mainstream. So I'll be back more soon with more 100 must-read science fiction novels. This is Stephen E. Andrews, Outlaw Bookseller, signing out for now.